This video is an overview of the new features and enhancements to rendering in Maya 2009, specifically the addition of stereoscopic 3D, enhancements to the IPR, and the addition of render passes. So new in Maya is the ability to create, preview, and render stereo 3D. So one of the first things you're going to notice when you jump into the viewport within Maya, underneath the panels menu here, you'll see that we have a stereo drop-down menu. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a new stereoscopic camera rig. So I'm just going to select that camera and just jump back in our perspective view here and just frame it up and take a look at our stereoscopic camera rig. You can see that it consists of three cameras. It's essentially a center camera flanked by a left eye camera and a right eye camera. So these cameras operate under the basic principle of having a left eye, right eye, and the center is what I can use to set up or frame my scene. So I'm just going to jump into my scene here and just start to frame it up. I'm just using my center camera much like I would any regular perspective camera, and I'm just framing up my scene here in my in-viewport stereoscopic viewer. So you can see beside the panels menu up here we have a stereo menu, and you can see when I drop down there I'm looking through my center eye, and you can see that this viewer supports anaglyph, active, checkerboard, and free view stereoscopic viewing modes. So these modes can be used with either the default stereoscopic camera rig like I'm using right here, or with a custom rig. So let's go ahead and turn on anaglyph, and I'm just going to go ahead and you can see that the blue and red anaglyph channels are supported in the viewport. I'm just going to go ahead and select the camera. You can see that we have a variety of parameters related to stereoscopic 3D, and you can see that I can just go ahead and I can actually change my stereo settings here to things like convergence or parallax. Let's just set it to parallax or parallel here, and you can see that I can actually go ahead and adjust interactively in my viewport things like the interaxial separation, so you can see the blue and the red separating here. Let's just set that. And of course we can go ahead and play back in 3D within Maya in the viewport. So of course if we had the proper equipment, 3D glasses or a 3D display, we could be viewing this 3D in real time as we work away in Maya. So very cool to be able to actually work with that and see your geometry in 3D as you work. As well, if we jump into the PlayBlast menu here, Maya's PlayBlast supports stereo 3D. So I'll just go ahead and PlayBlast this out. And you can see that the resulting movie here that I'm creating, I'm just PlayBlasting on a few frames. PlayBlast supports stereo 3D, so we can actually use this for real-time playback here to take a look at our scene here. So the viewer as well as the PlayBlast can provide real-time stereo 3D feedback, and then it reduces the overall need for full stereo test renders. As well, we also have automatic render layer generation. So render layers can automatically be generated from the stereo camera rig. So this makes it really easy to produce the separate images required for the right and left eye. And then furthermore, we could take camera information from the stereo rig and have that exported to Toxic. So for example, the cameras could be laid out here in Maya, and then elements such as textures could be reprojected in Toxic. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually jump back into our scene here, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and go into an IPR setup here, and we can take a look at some of the enhancements to our IPR. So I'm just going to frame up my scene here, and I'm just going to get him here with the ball in view. I'm just going to tune that up a bit here. So there are several enhancements for IPR. IPR for Mental Ray has been greatly enhanced, so we have some new features going on in here. So you can see that we're just tuning this in. So IPR now supports the transformation of objects and lights. So I'm just going to grab the basketball here. I'm just going to translate this around. So previously this wasn't possible, where you could just get the feedback here in the IPR. So I'm just going ahead and I'm translating the ball around. You can see that the IPR is updating with that. As well as duplication and instancing, and parameters such as visibility are also supported here. So just going to go ahead and turn on and off the visibility of the ball, and you can see the IPR updating that as I do that. And let's just go ahead and frame in a different view here. So I'm just going to jump ahead and frame up the head a bit here, and I'll just refresh my IPR and just kind of tune in a view on on our character's head here. So we have the ability to do basic changes to topology. That is also supported here in Mental Ray. So smooth meshes within Maya can now be rendered in Mental Ray, included within the interactive IPR. So I'm just going to grab some vertices on my character's head here, and I'm just going to turn on my soft select, and then I'm going to use my global select mode here. So I'm grabbing all the different pieces of his head, and I can just go ahead and I can actually just start to translate or deform that geometry, and you'll see the IPR giving me feedback on that. So it's actually interactively rendering changes to my geometry on this here as well. So this eliminates the previous requirement for smooth meshes within Maya to be converted to polygons before rendering. So that's fine. So let's just actually turn on an area light here. So I can just grab this area light. So all light attributes are now fully supported, including photons, shadow maps, and area lights here within our IPR. So I'm just going to grab my area light here. I can rotate it around. Let's change the intensity on this here and crank it up. So you can see I'm rotating around. You can see the IPR providing feedback for that. Just going to jump into the attribute menu here for my area light, and let's just change the color on that. You can see the IPR updating as I change some of these values here. So very nice, really quick feedback here. And then of course we can go ahead and we can change our mental ray, change our area light to a mental ray area light, and I can change the light shape. We can make it into spherical, rectangular, different kind of light shapes there. And let's just turn that off here. So you can see that I can actually hide and unhide the light just like an object, and you can see the resulting update in our IPR. So this is great for production, especially for lighters, to see the render update interactively. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back to our initial scene here. So we'll just go back into our setup here with our guy in our court. I'm just going to actually jump into my render layers here and just turn on this robo layer, so we just have our character here. So you'll see also new to Maya 2009's rendering is an entirely updated set of production level render passes. So if I just jump into the render attributes here, or render settings for this specific layer, you'll see that first of all that there's a couple of different things that are in the layout of our render settings. So we now have a reorganization of our render settings. So you can see all these new tabs in here where we've reorganized a bunch of different things. So it's a much more enhanced or more efficient set for our render settings in here. So now if I can jump into my passes tab here, and I'm now going to create some render passes specific to this render layer here. So Maya now offers built-in support for over 50 production level passes. So let's go ahead and actually create some render passes here. So I'm just going to go ahead and create some ambient occlusion and a diffuse pass. We're going to create some shadows, specular, and let's create some reflections here as well. So you can see that in the top area here I have my 5 render passes that I've created. I'm just going to associate those now with my render layer. So I've now associated these passes specifically to the objects within my render layer. So if we go ahead and render that, you'll see that we actually have our resulting render passes here. So you can see we have some nice ambient occlusion, a diffuse pass, reflection pass, a shadow pass, a specular pass, and then by default with the passes a master beauty pass will be created as well. You can also see back actually in our render settings here, just one last thing, that we actually have full support for multi-channel EXRs. So that's a brief overview of the features and enhancements to the rendering capabilities of Maya 2009.